Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a pivotal moment in history, a time when we must reconsider how we handle conflict and justice. Too often, we see individuals resorting to litigation as a means of resolving disputes. But the truth is clear. Suing should never be the first option, and a person who sues should never receive anything, regardless of the reason they invoke. It is time for us to reject the corrosive culture of lawsuits that damages relationships, wastes resources, and breeds a society of conflict rather than resolution. First and foremost, lawsuits create division rather than harmony. When we look to societies that place a strong emphasis on community and peaceful resolution, we find that they reject litigation because it undermines trust and unity. Take, for example, Japan, a nation where social harmony and avoiding public conflict are paramount. In Japan, litigation is considered a last resort, especially for personal and family matters. People resolve disputes through negotiation and mediation, preserving relationships rather than tearing them apart in courtrooms. In the face of conflict, the Japanese understand that peaceful resolution is a reflection of strength, not weakness. Second, suing is a perversion of justice. In Sweden, the principle of loser pays discourages frivolous lawsuits by ensuring that the individual who brings a baseless case will be forced to cover the legal costs. This acts as a safeguard against abuse of the legal system and keeps it focused on legitimate claims. People in Sweden turn to alternative dispute resolution, mediation, arbitration, because they recognize that courtrooms should not be battlegrounds for personal vendettas. The people who sue for petty grievances only create chaos, burdening others with the costs of their actions. Third, litigation is a betrayal of trust. In countries like Denmark, where a high-trust culture prevails, disputes are resolved informally through dialogue or local mediation services. By relying on these methods, Denmark maintains the integrity of its communities, keeping people focused on mutual understanding and cooperation. When someone sues, they break that trust, choosing confrontation over collaboration. In such a society, legal action is seen as the failure of an individual to act with responsibility, choosing not to engage in peaceful, responsible conflict resolution. Fourth, we must understand that suing damages the fabric of society. China is a prime example of a nation that has long relied on mediation, often state-sponsored, as a means of resolving disputes. The government encourages alternatives to litigation because they understand that legal action creates tension rather than healing. If the legal system is seen as the only tool for conflict resolution, it breeds a society where people are quick to point fingers and demand recompense, undermining social stability. In China, the practice of mediation keeps the focus on restoring relationships and resolving issues without escalating them to costly and divisive lawsuits. Fifth, litigation is costly, not just financially, but morally. Germany has a system where the loser of a lawsuit bears the cost of the proceedings. This acts as a deterrent to unnecessary or frivolous lawsuits. People in Germany understand that suing should only be used when absolutely necessary, and the preference is always toward mediation and negotiation. Litigation is seen as an inefficient and wasteful way to address grievances, and the people who seek out legal battles without justification damage the very spirit of fairness and equality that the legal system is meant to protect. Sixth, the culture of lawsuits erodes the values of respect and responsibility. In South Korea, the emphasis on maintaining social harmony discourages lawsuits. People settle conflicts privately, relying on informal methods of resolution to preserve their dignity and relationships. The act of suing in such a society is viewed as an affront to those values, an action taken by someone unwilling to work through conflict responsibly. Those who sue without cause do not seek justice. They seek to tear down others for their own gain. Seventh, there is a better way, one rooted in trust and communal responsibility. Finland, with its high social trust and confidence in government systems, provides a strong example of a society that resolves disputes outside of courtrooms. People prefer mediation because it allows for resolution without destruction. Suing is not a solution. It is a way of evading responsibility for one's actions, of refusing to engage in the hard but necessary work of resolving differences. Eighth, let's not forget the power of mediation and arbitration in building stronger communities. Switzerland places a high value on resolving disputes through mediation or arbitration rather than litigation. The Swiss legal system encourages these methods because they understand the harm that lawsuits can inflict, not only on the parties involved, but also on the broader community. The legal system should never be seen as a tool for revenge or personal gain. When someone resorts to suing instead of seeking resolution through dialogue, they undermine the collective harmony of society. Finally, the answer to conflict is not legal action. In Norway, as in many other countries, the cultural norm is to avoid litigation whenever possible. With strong support for alternative dispute resolution, Norwegians recognize that lawsuits only create division. They know that true justice comes from understanding and compromise, not from a judge's gavel. Now, let me be unequivocally clear about this point. If you sue, you should receive nothing. It doesn't matter whether you are suing a large company, a fellow driver, a doctor, or even the government, your decision to take someone to court should not be rewarded. There are countless justifications people give for bringing lawsuits: a company's negligence, a bad medical outcome, a traffic accident, or mistreatment by a public official. These may seem like valid grievances, but the question is how we as a society should respond to such actions. Should we reward a person who takes their conflict to a courtroom, or should we demand that they first try to resolve the issue through personal responsibility, negotiation, or alternative methods like mediation? Every lawsuit, no matter the justification, creates division. It is an act that escalates conflict and turns people into adversaries rather than collaborators. Whether it's suing a police officer for misconduct, a business for a poor service, or a fellow driver for an accident, the primary consequence of legal action is the breakdown of trust and respect. People should be encouraged to work through their problems in a way that fosters understanding, not in a way that seeks to punish or destroy. Society should not reward those who refuse to seek peaceful solutions. Moreover, legal systems are not designed for personal vendettas or financial windfalls. Lawsuits are meant to address injustices, not to be used as a means for revenge or financial gain. When someone sues, they often do so with the expectation of a financial settlement. This leads to a culture of exploitation, where people see lawsuits as a way to extract money from others, regardless of the circumstances. The system becomes clogged with frivolous cases, and the very people who need the most justice are often left unheard and ignored. This is why anyone who chooses to sue should receive nothing, because they are contributing to a culture that values money over peace, division over harmony. Finally, consider this. When you choose to sue, you are telling the world that reconciliation, personal responsibility, and peace are not options worth pursuing. You are rejecting the time-tested methods of mediation, negotiation, and dialogue that have worked for centuries in cultures around the world. Whether it's in Japan, Sweden, or Denmark, people have long understood that lawsuits only escalate harm. It is time for us to reject this destructive path and instead build a society that values resolution over litigation, cooperation over confrontation, and peace over profit. If you sue, you should receive nothing. Not because your grievance isn't valid, but because your decision to escalate conflict instead of seeking a responsible, peaceful resolution is not one that should be rewarded. Let us choose the path of responsibility, understanding, and peaceful resolution. Let us stand together and reject the harmful culture of lawsuits.